big this whole time?
Yeah. Yep. There you go. Yeah, you use the broadcaster to check yourself out.
All right. I think I'm good.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live across all of our services. Hopefully everyone is doing fantastic tonight, and hopefully you've all recovered from the long weekend. Well, long weekend, I should say, the rough weekend after the loss over in Louisville on Sunday. But anyway, we're here. We're live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, so appreciate you being here. If you are on Facebook and YouTube, be sure to pop on over in the comments. Throw your questions, comments over in there, and we'll talk about them on air. It's just Jacob and myself tonight. Earl can't be here. He recently accepted a new position with his job, and so he is dealing with some stuff. So Earl's not going to be here tonight, but hopefully some folks pop on over in the chat and join us tonight, and we get some great conversation going, and we'll just hop right into our show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Somos Mas, the official podcast of Somos Mas and your source for the latest news and notes on New Mexico United. My name, of course, is Seth Benoff. Joining me tonight is Jacob Terrell. Two-man show tonight. Earl is out. Decided to take the week off, and so we support him in that. And it's something we should probably all do at some point. But we are here. We've got a lot to talk about. New Mexico United, of course, did lose this past weekend to Louisville City FC by a final of 3-1. And before we do hop into our discussion, Jacob, I have one burning question for you.
Let's do it.
4 weeks into the season, can your team win the Super Bowl this year?
Yeah. I mean, we have to get healthy, especially in the secondary. But, yeah, I mean, I think the most impressive team in the NFC anyways that I've seen has honestly been Dallas, as much as I somewhat hate to say that, but they've got a win over the Chargers, who look freaking fantastic. They beat a Panthers team that was 3-0 and had a good defense. They shellacked the Eagles, and they squeaked by us. Or we squeaked by them. So, I mean, they've been really impressive, but we've already beat them, and they don't necessarily scare me enough to think that they would beat us again in Tampa or in Dallas, for that matter. And then once you get to the AFC is I don't even know what's going on in the AFC right now. So, there's no one that really sticks out. So I think there's probably 1, 2, 3, 4 teams in the AFC, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 teams in the NFC that I think can win it. So, I mean, it's kind of for grabs after it's not a quarter of the season anymore like it used to be because of the 17th game, but after roughly a quarter of the season, it's still very much up in the air on some things.
Well, I think we're far enough into the season now that you can make a pretty good projection as to how your team is going to look for the rest of the year. And you've got some teams like Green Bay, who started off kind of rough in their first week. They've now won, I think it's 3 in a row. Arizona Cardinals are 4-0. You've got Dallas Cowboys who are playing pretty well. Tampa Bay somehow managed to win in the rain and sleet and snow up in Foxborough over the weekend.
Well, I can tell you how they did that. Bill Belichick made a terrible decision.
The ball was deflated.
No, that's not what it was. Belichick made a terrible. The ball wasn't deflated. That's why Brady was overthrowing people.
Oh, okay.
In the rain, it was too inflated, is what was going on there. But no, Belichick's decision to kick the field goal at the end there was probably the dumbest thing I've seen any coach do all season. It's 56 yards. They said it's raining harder now than it has throughout the whole night. You have a guy whose longest career field goal is 56 yards. He doesn't kick field goals over 50 yards for the Patriots. They've just never ran him out there to do it. And on top of that, even if he makes that, you still have 50 seconds left and 2 timeouts, and you're giving the ball back to Tom Brady, and all he needs is a field goal? I don't know, man. It was a questionable decision. And so that's literally, there's the whole saying of, and especially in football, like, do whatever the opposing fan base doesn't want you to do. And when it came to that 4th and 3, I was like, man, they're going to go for it. That sucks because they're probably going to get it. And then they can just waste clock until they kick a field goal, a much closer field goal. And when they said they were trotting out Nick Folk, I was like, what? Really? Okay. Yeah, let's do this. All right, cool. And then he misses and we kneel, and there you go. It by no means has it been pretty for Tampa Bay this season. Even that Falcons game, I mean, I think we controlled it for the most part, but the score was closer at the start of the fourth quarter than I would have liked it to have been. And then our other games have been, kind of not great. Not bad, but not great. So, but we've had a lot of injuries in the secondary, like I said, and if we can get some guys back later in the season and gear up, then I think we'll be right there. We're going to make the playoffs. We're going to win that division just because that division is outside of Tampa. It's probably the worst division in the NFC. Yeah, the NFC East might have something to say about that, and the North actually. All the divisions kind of suck aside from one team, and then you have the NFC West that actually has possibly four playoff teams, maybe. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I mean, if it's not those 4, who else is it?
I don't know. That's a tough call right there. All 4 of those teams have looked good for a large portion of their games, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the NFC West down the stretch. Whether or not we get 4 teams, I could see 3 teams coming out of there for sure.
Yeah,
but I don't think it's ever happened, or I don't think it's set up in a way that you could get 4.
It is now with the 7th playoff team because there's 3 wild cards.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing about it is that they might cannibalize each other in the games that they play each other. But you look at the NFC South, the Saints. I mean, I thought they were for real when they beat the Packers in week 1. They beat the crap out of them. But then they've looked terrible in their last 3 games. The Panthers, maybe. I mean, but then Dallas just went out and smoked them. And now I'm like, I don't know. And
I think they also didn't have Christian McCaffrey this weekend.
He's out. He might be back this weekend, but we'll see. It was more the defense for the Panthers against the Cowboys that worried me because the Panthers defense had been really good going into that game. And then Dallas just did whatever they want. And part of it is Dallas just has a really good offense. And Kellen Moore has them playing really well, calling the right plays. And so I don't know. But after 8 weeks, we'll have a discussion again about actually after 8 weeks, let's see, where are we? 4 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So we are here.
So say what? Thanksgiving weekend?
Yeah, I think that's more than 8 weeks, but yeah, probably around. Well, so Thanksgiving, that Tuesday after Thanksgiving, I will not be on the pod, FYI. But around that time, maybe the week before Thanksgiving, if we're not talking about United, we can do a deep dive on the NFL season because by then we might know the playoff teams in both conferences by then.
It's entirely possible. At least I think we'll have some teams that are eliminated by that point. We may not have the.
Oh, I can tell you a handful of teams that are eliminated already.
More than likely. I mean, this historically, if you start 1-3, it's like a 2% chance that you're going to make the playoffs. If you start 0-4, I don't know what it is. I think it's basically a 0% chance. But yeah, it's pretty rough if you don't get off to a winning start. And you look at teams like Detroit, who I don't know what's going on over there. And then Atlanta, we have no defense whatsoever. We can't stop anybody. And I have no faith in my team whatsoever right now.
Are you talking fantasy or are you talking the Falcons?
Both. Both. I finally picked up my first fantasy win this weekend. Which was good.
Against a team that also hasn't won.
Yeah, I guess another team. And I look back at that, and my team has just underperformed all season long so far. 4 weeks in, and it's just been like underperformance after underperformance. And in both leagues that I'm in, it's been that way. In my other league that I'm in this week, I had 60 some odd points sitting on the bench.
That sucks, doesn't it?
And in that league, I had Tom Brady as my starting QB. And because of how bad the weather was in Foxborough, I don't think Brady had a touchdown or I don't think he had a touchdown pass, did he?
No, he did not.
Yeah, so I'm like, Tom, 1 touchdown. That's all I need. One touchdown.
He has actually not thrown a touchdown pass in 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's terrible. Like, I don't know what happened, but yeah, it's just been underperformance across both my fantasy leagues this year. And so, like, Christian McCaffrey was out. I drafted Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown, number 1, he's been non-existent. And then he had COVID. And
whoa. Week 1, Antonio Brown was fantastic. I will have you know.
Well,
I have it right here on your other team. Antonio Brown in week 1 had 23.7 fantasy points.
Yeah.
And then he was against Atlanta. Then he didn't play. And then he had 13.3 against Atlanta or against New England. So he hasn't been too bad. He should have had more. He should have caught a touchdown pass at the end of Atlanta, but
he should have destroyed Atlanta. That's what should have happened. Atlanta's got a shit secondary. Like we do. Our secondary is shit. And we just lost Isaiah Oliver for the season. So, I'm done with the Falcons this year. Like, I think we will be lucky to get 500 this year. Or 8 and 9, whatever it is now. I think we'll be lucky to get that. I can see this being like a 6 or 7 win season, more likely. And even then, I don't know, but we have to fix the defense because there's no way that we come back from a 1-3 start.
And Matt Ryan kind of looks done. I respect Matt Ryan. I think he's been a great quarterback for a while. From what I've seen of him this year, he has not looked like Matt Ryan of old.
We've had some issues with play calls. Our O-line has been absolutely terrible too. And so we just have a number of issues. And I saw some people complaining about the hit that he took against Washington on Sunday, saying, that shouldn't have been roughing the passer. It's like, well, you can't hit the quarterback in the face. Like, that's just the way the rule's written. It doesn't matter what it is. You cannot hit him in the head. Like, it may have been a soft penalty, and I will agree to that. It was soft, but you can't do it. Like, it doesn't matter. It's all because of Tom Brady.
Do you have any Falcons on your fantasy team? The league that I'm in, anyways. I was just on it, but I didn't look.
No.
Smart.
I don't think I do. I might have drafted Kyle. No, I didn't draft Kyle Pitts.
No, your name is
up Pitts Creek. Yeah,
it does have a Pitts reference in it, but I do not believe you have him.
Yeah. No, I honestly tried to avoid the Falcons this year. I did. I think I have. Let me pull up my fantasy.
Nobody.
Teams.
You don't have anybody.
Yeah.
On that one, anyways, you don't. And by the way, somebody was mocking me for picking the Atlanta kicker in the I don't remember what round because I did what's it called? Auto draft.
Yeah.
Because of something. And that auto drafted team is in second place in the league right now. So don't.
So I do have Kyle Pitts in the other league that I'm in.
Oh, okay.
Let me look at his now this league here, their scoring is a lot looser than the one that we're in with Josh. And so let me see where his numbers are in that league. So against Philly, 8 targets, 4 receptions, 31 yards. He got 11.1 points. Against Tampa Bay, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 73 yards. I don't think I don't think he has a touchdown yet this year. No. So he got 17.3 points against Tampa Bay. So the scoring is a little bit looser in that league. I think it's like it's like a 2 PPR league.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
So yeah, it's an interesting league for sure. And then obviously, yards and things like that. But so yeah, I have Kyle Pitts in that league. But yeah, other than that, like I thought about picking up Calvin Ridley, but I didn't do it because I have because of what I saw in the preseason or what I didn't see in the preseason. I didn't really want to draft any of the Falcons, and so yeah, this weekend in that league, I had Kenny Galladay on the bench.
Okay.
And Tyson Williams on the bench.
Tyson didn't even play this weekend.
Did he? Who was it then? Let me look back at my matchup then.
In my other league, I am 4-0 and the third highest scoring league. And Josh, if you're listening, don't take this the wrong way. I care about that league. I'm making moves. I'm doing what I can. I don't care about it near as much as I do the other one because the other one is $130 to buy in. And I can win like $1,000 if I win that league. So I'm paying a lot of attention to it. And so I'm very happy to be 4-0 in it. And I feel really good about my team there.
Okay, the other person I had on the bench that really went off for me was Jerome McKissick.
Yeah, but I don't blame you. Like, you're not going to start those guys. That's not – I don't blame you for that. I don't blame you for that at all.
Yeah, my other starting wide receivers in that league were Cole Beasley. In a 40-0 victory, Cole Beasley had 5.6 points.
Sounds about right.
Like, I don't know what happened there. But my other two receivers were Deontay Johnson, who went off for 37 points there. And then Tyler Boyd had 39 points.
No, that's a good one.
So I had Edwards-Helaire as my running back, as my RB2, went at 31.4. And then Jusic from San Francisco, who had not a bad week. He overperformed the projections. He had 12.1. But yeah, Brady underperformed by like 10 points in that league.
So wait, what kind of league is it that you're starting Kyle Juszczyk as a running back? And
because he gets a lot of touchdowns.
He doesn't.
Yeah.
But you don't have any other running backs? Like, who else did you draft?
So yeah, my other running backs in that league, J.D. McKissick. Then I had Elijah Mitchell, and Mitchell's been out. So that's why I started.
You didn't draft Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah.
How deep is this league? I'm so confused.
So my bench currently is Jameis, McKissick, Mitchell, Williams, Galladay, and Tanyan. That's my bench in that league. Like it's I think this is a 12-team league, so it's pretty deep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you have Mozart? Mozart?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't have him. I didn't draft him. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's weird. Anyways, you can tell we don't want to talk about the United game because we've spent 18 minutes talking about football.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with talking fantasy football. I mean, this has always been, fantasy football not necessarily has been our goal, but our goal is to just talk about sports.
Yeah.
While United is our priority, we do have times, and I think we're going to get into other leagues and things, and we've got to figure out our off-season plans here eventually, and I'm sure there's going to be something to talk about. I mean, I think NHL starting, right? That's starting soon.
Yeah, they start October 12th.
And then the NBA starts at some point, which I really don't care about the NBA.
I do.
I know you do.
Anyways.
Yeah, I know you and Earl kind of watch it, and I don't. But no, we'll find some other stuff to talk about here in the off season. And so there's nothing wrong with talking fantasy football. Nothing at all. So, but yeah, I mean, we're on completely different spectrums in terms of where our teams are going, both in terms of fantasy and real NFL. But in terms of New Mexico United, yeah, this weekend was not a good showing for us. It went out to Louisville City, obviously, took them on for the first time ever in club history, gave up 2 goals in the first 15 minutes. Amando Moreno did come back and score 1 in stoppage time of the first half to narrow that lead to 2-1. And then we gave up a third in the second half, and that was all she wrote. And I think we just got done in by that first half hour. Like, we came out, we looked flat, we didn't look good. And on those 2 goals, it was basically the exact same run of play that happened, just going opposite directions. And you could see that we weren't reacting well. Guys weren't sliding over. They weren't making coverages. And we struggled. And really, those goals weren't much more than tap ins, but we couldn't find an answer to it.
Yeah. So as somebody that, I had a really crazy weekend. We helped my mom move. We were in Los Lunas. It was a 1:00 game, which threw me off just because, we don't get back from when we go out of town. We don't get back home until that evening. So I had to watch the second half from my phone and missed the first half for the most part. And so it's kind of crazy. But was it after those first two goals? Was the whole half basically praying that they don't score another one, or did we settle into the game at all after those first 30 minutes or so?
After about 30 minutes, we kind of started to settle in, and we looked better in, I would say, the final 10, 15 minutes of the first half. But that first half hour, it was just Lou City. They were playing a really high press. They were disrupting us trying to play out of the back. You could see the guys making passes that they weren't prepared for, passes that they didn't necessarily want to make. And Lou City really just controlled that first 30 minutes of the match. And like I said, we came out flat. I made a comment over on the Reddit thread saying, maybe it's like all that stuff in the NFL where they always talk about West Coast teams going east in the earlier match times and stuff like that. I mean, maybe that was part of the case. I don't know, but we just didn't look good.
I think, well, first and foremost, Lou City is a really, really good caliber USL championship side.
Mm-hmm.
I think they lost their first two home matches after opening that stadium last year, but that was, of course, during the pandemic, so it was kind of strange. And I could be wrong about that, but I know they lost their home opener there. But since then, they have been very, very good at home. They have a fantastic home field advantage. And then you add in the fact that we're going there at 1:00, which is a weird start time, on a Sunday, which is our first Sunday game, our first afternoon game. And it is going farther east than we've ever traveled as a soccer club. So I don't want to put too much stock into this. And we talked about it before. I mean, I predicted us to win, but I was feeling good about where we were. But at the same time, you can't really hang your head at a loss that, I mean, I understand the first 30 minutes didn't look great, but the second half that I did watch, we had two fantastic chances. Moreno in particular had two fantastic chances to draw level at 2. And one was a sitter that he somehow, I don't even know how he hit it over the bar from that close. I'm not, physics defies that to me, but he did. And that should have been in the back of the net, especially with a player the quality of Armando Moreno. The fact that doesn't hit the back of the net, or he doesn't even force the keeper to make a save, is terrible. It's just flat out terrible. And then he had one where he made a nice play and put it off the crossbar, and I don't blame him for that one. I mean, that was a hell of a shot. It was just an inch too high, and it bounced down right in front of the line and spun back. So, but if that first one goes in, which it 100% should have, all of a sudden it's 2-2 with 30 minutes left, and you're like, okay, there's a game here. We still might have lost, but I think scoring there, even if we would have lost 3-2, would have changed a lot of people's perception on how that game goes. And so the chances were there, at least. We just couldn't finish, which has been the bugaboo all season, not finishing. But we had kind of gotten away from that and had been finishing a lot of our quality chances. So overall, I'm not too worried. It was a Eastern Conference match that, in the tight division race that we're in, obviously every match we need points, but it's not a 6-point match like the RGV and the San Antonio and the Real Monarchs, even though they're already eliminated. So we'll come out tomorrow night. We'll play a Hartford team that I didn't look what they did this weekend, but they had been struggling. So
They've lost 4 or 5.
So if we can kind of turn it around there and get at least a point, preferably 3 points back at home, then I'm definitely not worried at all. But from what I saw of the match, we weren't drastically the worst team. I mean, I felt like we competed really well in the second half and played them pretty much even from what I saw. We had one bad turnover, and I meant to go look back at who it was, but I want to say it was Azira had a bad turnover right there at midfield, and Louisville capitalized on it. McLaughlin, who a lot of people rumored was coming here in the offseason because he was on our roster on the USL website at one point. He ended up putting in that third goal, and it was just kind of a backbreaker at that point, and we just had no fight after that, which, like I said, 1 o'clock Eastern time zone, playing against a club like that, you go down 2 goals after two great chances of tying it up, you're probably going to be a little deflated there. And so you watched the whole thing. Do you feel differently? Was it such a poor showing that you're concerned, or was it explainable at least?
The first 30 minutes, yes. As far as explaining it, I don't think I can do that. I can't explain what caused it. Now, Lou City is absolutely one of the best clubs in the USL. They have been since their inception in 2015. They've made the playoffs every single year except for last year, and they've won 2 USL League Cups.
They made the playoffs last year.
No, they finished 6th. Oh, I know. Yeah, they did make the playoffs. That's right.
They made the playoffs because it was the weird thing.
Yeah, I saw. You look at it and you see them finishing 6th in the table. Okay, but yeah. So anyway, Lucy, they're absolutely a great team, and they came out and they pushed what they wanted to do, and it absolutely disrupted everything that we would normally do. The play out of the back, and we were having to make quick decisions. And I think it really affected the guys mentally for the first, 30 minutes or so. But after that, like I said, we finally seemed to settle in. We saw some really good runs. Daniel Bruce, I thought, was our man of the match because he played lights out. He played really well. He made some really good runs. And then the vision that he had to turn around on that first goal and play the ball back square into the middle of the box, I thought was fantastic. A lot of time, 98% of the time, you're going to see guys get down there to the byline, and they're going to either have that ball run out of play on them, or they're going to try to play it back in, and it's going to fall to a defender, or it's going to get deflected out. But that was a great run by him, great follow through by Amando, and then, like I said, that last 10, 15 minutes of the first half, on into the second half, you could see the momentum. You could see that the guys were finally comfortable, and we were connecting on passes. We were making runs. We were making our presence felt. And so you see that all the way up until that, I'd say the second miss by Moreno. The first one, how he was that unmarked, I have no idea. Just wide open. There was nobody within 7-8 yards of him. And pinpoint cross by Josh Suggs. Absolutely fantastic cross there. And then I've watched that replay a number of times, and I think what happened is the ball short hopped the Mondo a little bit. And so he tried to just take it on as a one-time, which is fine. Normally it's not an issue. You want guys to get the ball out quickly. You want them to take that quick shot. But I think because of that short hop and how he hit it, he just got under the ball and it went over, which is rather unfortunate. I think with how much room that he had, with the amount of time that he had, he could have settled it and taken a much better shot. I imagine the XG on that was like 1,000. I'd have to go back and look. I don't know what the actual XG on that shot was, but yeah, basically 1-on-1 with the keeper at the spot. That should have gone in the goal.
He was
should have
closer
gone
than
in.
the spot. He was at the top of the 6,
Yeah.
if not inside the 6.
Yeah, it was a really close shot. And then on that second one, it was a great turn by him to even keep the ball in the area and give himself a chance to shoot. And just unfortunate the ball bounced the way that it did off the crossbar.
Yeah.
You know, most times you see that ball, it's going to go down and it's going to go into the net. Well, after it bounces off the underside of the crossbar, it was just really unfortunate. And I thought we had a couple opportunities right there that the ball could have potentially gone in. But yeah, once McLaughlin hit that third one, like you saw everyone deflate. And that was it.
So a couple questions off of that. One, if you chalk the first 30 minutes up to weird start time, going east, playing a great team in a fantastic stadium, being a little awestruck, being a little tired, being a little out of sorts, whatever, because of that. If you take that 30 minutes out and you just look at the last 15, 20 minutes of the first half and then the second half, are you thinking we're about where we were before that match? Are you thinking our form is still good? Is it slightly worse? Is it maybe even better? Because from what I saw, without seeing those first 30 minutes, I saw all the people freaking out, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, we lost, but I feel like we were right there with them in the second half. So if you chalk that up to what I just talked about, how do you feel about it just looking at that 15 minutes and then the second half?
I think we're still in a pretty good spot. I feel like in that 45 to 60 minute window that we were aggressive, we were creating opportunities, we were making runs, and we were controlling the pace of play. And I don't think Lou City was entirely comfortable with what we were wanting to do during that time span. And so I think coming back home, you're going to see that continue, especially against a Hartford club that has struggled this year. They will likely be eliminated from the playoffs here either this week or next week, unless they do something miraculous with their final, I think, 7 matches they have left. But yeah, I'm not too concerned about it. I don't like the fact that we came out as flat as we did, obviously. But yeah, in the middle there. And there was a great comment by, I think it was Devin Kerr that made it. And he said, every Lou City match you've seen this year, there's been about 40 to 42 minutes where they play really well. And they've managed to get wins because of that 40 to 42 minutes instead of a full match, a full well-played match. And so I think the same thing can be said for us, because if you see, 40 to 60 minutes of really good football from us, we're going to be in a good spot to win. But if we can't overcome being flat, if we can't make something happen, if we can't prevent other teams from scoring when we're in that funk for however long it is, that's where we have issues. And we don't play well from behind. We never have. Mm-hmm. And I think we did a pretty good job of adjusting in the middle of the first half and then going out and carrying that momentum over into the second half, which is something that we don't do very well either. Because we talk about all the time, where's that energy coming out of the half?
I will say, though, that energy coming out of the half has been there, I feel, for about a month. Mm-hmm. We haven't had that. In fact, I think we've scored 2 or 3 goals in the last month or so in the first 10 minutes of the second half. And I don't feel like we've given up any of those cheap ones that we tend to do right there coming out of the half. But to touch on another thing that you said way back when you first started talking about the match, we talk a lot about the change in the attacking form that we've seen since Guzman has been put in a backup role, and we've got Rivas in there. What also kind of coincides with that is Brucey getting a lot more playing time. And I think that is more of a cause than a I don't know what the other word is that I'm looking for is, but Brucey being in there is part of the reason why our offense has been more electric than it was for that little that 7-game winless streak that we had. And Brucey Brucey could be the man of the match for probably 3 of the last several matches that we've had. He has just been fantastic. So since I didn't see a lot from Brucey in the second half, I saw some, but not a ton there. To hear you say that and know that he performed well as well, just makes me feel really good. He's been a fan favorite. We were arguing, me, you, and Earl were arguing in the offseason before they re-signed him on if he was going to come back or not. And if he did, was he going to get more playing time? And there was a stretch there right after we signed Najim that it seemed like Troy had a hard-on for Najim a little bit too much. And what is weird, though, is that Bruce's playing time has kind of put Suggs on the bench more rather than Najim. I think he did start over Najim for this match, or maybe it was the last match that he started. But I love seeing him out there, and he just brings an element that none of our other wingbacks bring. He's got that speed element that Harry, when Harry's healthy, was bringing as well. I mean, we saw it in the preseason. How many times did we sit in the preseason, ride and play a long ball to one of those two, making a long diagonal run off of their side, and it causing chaos and leading to good things. So to get back to that and to see Brucey in there and see him playing well, I'm very, very happy to hear that, and hope that he continues it and coach continues to give him the chances.
Yeah, speaking of Brucey, he did start against the City, obviously, and then he did start against RGV last week as well. So he has been getting more playing time. We do see, well, at least the last 2 matches, Najim on one side and Brucey on the other. Harry being out obviously is one of the things that's helping that happen.
But it's Suggs that's not getting starts,
right?
Which is strange. I mean, that's our captain. Like that is the player voted captain and somebody that we've seen play more minutes than anybody else for our team, anyways, in the USL Championship. Not minutes logged in New Mexico United colors, but minutes logged in the USL period. Suggs is first.
I think so. First or second at this point.
Yeah. And so to see him ceding time to Brucey, while I think it's probably a good play, maybe I'd like to see one of them be on the other side for Najim. But Brucey looks better on that side. He looks better on the left, which is where Suggs looks best. So splitting time with them in the first, having one of them come on in the second half and one of them start, I think is probably our best bet. It just so happens that Brucey's gotten the start a couple times, and I'm not complaining. I think Suggs has looked fantastic at times, and Brucey's looked fantastic at times, and it's a good problem to have, having 2 quality players in the same position.
Yeah, it does help when you have guys that can come in and play the way that they do. I think Josh is a little bit better defensively than Brucey, but
for sure.
I feel like they both bring something going forward.
Although Suggs has looked vulnerable on the back line at times this season.
Yeah, I think really you could apply that to any of the guys, which I think is a fair assessment.
I don't think Brucey has, because I don't think they asked Brucey to do it.
Right.
Like, when Brucey's playing in Suggs' position, you don't see Brucey basically as a de facto back, left back, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, he is at midfield or higher a lot more than Suggs. Mm-hmm. And they'll ask Suggs to drop back and defend, and he obviously does a good job of it still, but they're just like you said, with Ryden, Tete to an extent. Yearwood's probably the least that I've seen. And Yearwood I've seen make mistakes, but I've seen Yearwood with the react or the oh shit, I fucked up, I'm gonna fix this kind of mentality,
Mhm.
and he has the speed to make that up and to get back and cut somebody off and prevent a goal from happening. Whereas Suggs and Ryden has that speed, but when he makes a mistake, it's right in front of goal. So
Right.
it's oh shit, the ball's in the back of the net before I even have a chance to react because the net's right there. Whereas everybody else has a little bit of time to try to make up and fix it, but only Yearwood's done that successfully.
Yeah, Austin seems to find a second gear, and that's not something that we see necessarily from Kalen and Tete. I think Tete is better at it than Kalen is, but yeah, if someone gets by Austin, he's gonna turn and he's gonna go back towards goal.
Yeah.
And he's not going to play with his back to the goal. He's going to turn, face goal, and take off to try to make that recovery and prevent anything negative from happening. And so while Josh has that ability, we just haven't seen it as much or as consistently this year.
Well, and I think, look, I love Suggsy, but he has the most minutes in the USL. You don't have that record and be a young player.
Right.
So maybe he just doesn't have that recovery speed anymore, which is perfectly fine. And he's still going to be a great player for us. But maybe that's just not something he has in his arsenal anymore.
And that would also help explain the transition to almost a pure midfield role.
Exactly.
I mean, he is 32 now, according to Wikipedia. So that definitely could be part of it.
That's how old I am. So
do you have the recovery speed that Josh Suggs does?
No. Well, no.
Okay.
I would be very curious if you gave me a month to stretch and just not to where make it to where I wouldn't tear a ligament. I would love to line up with the whole team and race from the midfield line to one of the goals, just to see how bad I am.
Okay.
Or maybe I would surprise myself and beat a few people. I don't know, but I would love to see that happen.
I think you could beat Phil.
Yeah, but Phil would just like trip me and kick me in the back of the head so I couldn't beat it. He would be like, "Oh no, I'm gonna start right here next to you," and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then I take 2 steps and he trips me, and then I'm out like a light.
Yeah, there you go. Let me ask you this. One of the big criticisms from Sunday, and I'm sure you saw it, I want to get your take on the halftime subs that Troy made. Coming out of the half on Sunday, we saw Devin Sandoval come on for Chris Weehan, and then Josh Suggs came on for David Najim. Now, Suggs for Najim, that's pretty much that's almost a like for like. You've got Suggsy who can go forward, who can cross the ball in. So that one I get. That one to me makes a lot of sense. Now, the one that I question a little bit is Dev on for Chris. Now, Bees didn't necessarily have a great first half. He was struggling to get involved. You saw him dropping deeper and deeper, trying to get involved, trying to get, a few touches just to get himself going. And so I think that might be what it was. And then also bring in Dev to help with the forward play, hold the ball up a little bit, get us settled up top and make that quick transition. Dev also has been a little bit better with his distribution to whoever's around him. So maybe that's probably that. But I saw some criticisms about these two, about at least that change anyway. What do you think about that?
Well, having not seen the first half in a vacuum, I hate the Weehan change. Just knowing what I know about those two players. The thing about Weehan is he can have a bad half and then he can make one run like the San Antonio match and it's all forgiven. Mm-hmm. Or it doesn't matter if he had a bad half because he can change things just like that. I can understand seeing Dev come in. Dev's played in a lot of big places, a lot of big matches in the MSL. Let me try that again. MLS and USL. And so I don't, being down one goal to Louisville in Louisville isn't going to phase him. So I could see him bringing him in, You need that second goal. Maybe, just maybe, if it's Dev standing there in front of goal instead of Moreno on that Suggs cross, maybe Dev finishes that. I don't know, and so maybe if he's in Moreno's position instead of Weehan's, who knows? You can second guess all you want, but at the end of the day, I want Weehan in there because Weehan has changed the game for us since he came back, and all Weehan needs is one chance, and makes one smart run. It just is in the right spot at the right time. Maybe it's Weehan that ball falls to that Moreno put off the post, or maybe Weehan's in a better position to get the rebound off of that Moreno miss and off the post. Who knows? But I trust Moreno to be, or not Moreno, Weehan. I trust Weehan to be in good spots that Dev typically isn't in. Not that Dev doesn't know how to find good spots. He finds different spots. He occupies different spots on the pitch than Weehan typically does. So I can see criticism for it without having seen the match. But at the end of the day, we criticized him for bringing Weehan off against Austin, the last match that we lost before this one. And it turns out he kind of came out with a little bit of a knock. So because they're so mum on all the injury stuff, maybe that's what it was. Maybe it could have been a little bit of a ding for him, and we might never know. So at the end of the day, I too will be mum on that decision, unless I hear something else.
Do you think that the upcoming scheduled congestion could have played into that as well? Knowing that we're not going to have Armando for at least the next two matches.
For sure. I mean, we've got Hartford and then we've got RGV again. So granted, the Hartford one isn't a 6-point match. It is probably a match that they're looking at going, okay, it's at home. We need 3 points. It's a team that is faltering. We need to get that match. This one, we haven't looked good. Maybe let's make a switch. Hopefully Dev can get a cheap goal, a poacher's goal, just sitting there in front of goals at some point in the second half, and we can still point here. Otherwise, let's save Weehan for a couple matches next week are going to be really big. And that RGV one is going to be massive. So I could definitely see that.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at with it. That maybe that was part of a planned change, knowing that we weren't going to have Moreno, and potentially have Chris available and not necessarily playing the full 90 heading into the congestion, and have him available to play in that more forward role without Moreno. So maybe you see Dev and Bees up top or something along those lines. And so having Bees with a somewhat fresher legs, I think, could have been a consideration there. For sure. So, yeah, it was one of those matches where it didn't go our way early. We started to show some life. We looked really good for a while. And I think there were still some positives to take away from that. And I think going into tomorrow night's match against Hartford, can we carry those positives over? Can we play up to our level and not play down to a Hartford side that has struggled this year? I believe they have one win and one loss against Mountain Division teams. They lost to Colorado Springs. They beat Real Monarchs, which, I mean, really everybody should. Yeah. But this is an East Coast club, and we're going to say #drink, because the elevation could come into consideration on Wednesday night for Hartford. We saw Loudon struggle with that. And so I think this is a good chance for United tomorrow night to get back and pick up 3 points, because I don't think a point tomorrow night is good enough.
No, it's really not. unless we're like down a man and claw back into it or something like that. Any draw you're going to be disappointed with tomorrow. And yeah, I think maybe it's because I didn't see the first 30 minutes, but I'm still feeling pretty optimistic about our playoff chances and where we're sitting and looking at the schedule we got left. I mean, Hartford, we talked about, hasn't played well. RGV, surprisingly, the first time we beat them ever was last week, but we beat them, and we looked like the better team pretty handily. So I could see us getting another W there. At San Diego might be tough. Home for San Antonio, and then at RGV and versus Real Monarchs. I think as long as we can, like you said, take those positives and move them forward, then we'll be okay. And I really do think that Colorado Springs match where he made that change to put Rivas in the midfield and not have Guzman in the lineup at all, just open things up for us and kind of open the guys' eyes to a more of attacking mindset and philosophy. And ever since then, even though they had that Austin one that was kind of a one-off, they've just looked like a much better club. So I think when we make the playoffs, and if we make some noise in the playoffs, especially, you can look back at that Colorado Springs game and circle it and say that was the changing point. And because of that, and because I'm still feeling pretty good about how we've seen the club kind of make those changes and look completely different. I think we continue that Wednesday. I think we continue it Saturday. I know you didn't ask about Saturday, but I'm going to let you know anyways. I think 2 multiple goal wins are coming, even with Moreno not being there.
I think that's a bold prediction there, at least to some extent. While I know that we have the ability to score, my concern with these next 2 matches is playing, again, I already mentioned it, playing at the level that we need to be playing at the level that we know we can play at. Without Moreno, Bees has already become our leading goal scorer for the year, and just the short time that he's been here. Without Moreno, who is that target man up top? I mean, Dev obviously doesn't have the scoring ability that he used to. Do we see 2 at the top with Bees? Do we see maybe Bees play up top and Dev play underneath? What do we have to do in these next 2 matches to unlock that offense, unlock that potential without Amando being there?
Well, I think so much about this team's problems earlier in that 7-game run was just not having that attacking mindset. And if you have that attacking mindset, with even with Moreno out, the quality that we have across the board, whether it's Suggs, Brucey, Suggs, Brucey, Weehan, Sandoval, I'll throw Illich in there. Rivas, Tenari, Isidro. When you have talent there and you have a mindset that is, we're going to come in, we're going to score goals, we're not going to sit back on our heels no matter what the scenario is, I think the goals will come some way, somehow. So you look at that the Colorado Springs match, that I'm talking about, that's a turning point. Moreno didn't play in that match. Or at least he didn't start. Let me double check. Yeah, he didn't play in that match at all. I believe that was during his first run with El Salvador for World Cup qualifying. So he didn't play in that match at all. We scored 3 goals. We had Weehan, Suggs, and then a penalty from Sandoval. I could easily see those 3 scoring multiple goals over the next 2 matches. It's Moreno being out. I love Moreno. Moreno has been a very good player for us. Moreno has also struggled mightily with his mentality at times, including when he came back from his first El Salvador stint. And so not having him out there, I don't think it makes us a worse team. I don't think it makes us a better team at all. But I'm not worried about not having him in there and us not being able to score goals. I think there are ways that on ESPN it had us in a where'd it go? A 3-4-2-1 with Sandoval up top, and then Wehan and Martinez, and then Najem, Rivas, Azira, Suggs, and then Tete, Red, and Yearwood. I could easily see that lineup starting the next two matches or iterations of that lineup. Maybe it's Brucey instead of Najem one game. Maybe it's Brucey instead of Suggs, because I feel like Brucey's played well enough that he's got to get in there. Maybe it's Tenari instead of Martinez. Maybe it's Guzman instead of Azira. I don't know. There's a bunch of different plug and plays that you can do there. And I feel like our offense is going to be just fine. So while Moreno is a very good player for us, I'm thinking that 3 goals in these 2 games each isn't out of the realm of possibility. You might not expect it, might not be probable, but 3-1, 2-0, 3-0, whatever. I think any of those are a possibility. And against Hartford, spoiler alert, I'm going to predict 4-0. Because if you look at the schedule, I feel like that's probably the most likely chance that it happens is against Hartford, where we're playing at home. We are desperate coming off of a loss. Hartford is a team that is at like 27 feet above sea level back home. They're traveling west. They're taking us on midweek. It could get ugly if we play up to what we're capable of the last several weeks. And nothing that I've seen, at least at home, shows me that we shouldn't do that.
Of the 2 matches coming up this week, and I think we're going to sit down maybe later in the week, maybe Thursday again, to talk RGV. Of these 2 matches, I feel like Hartford is the one I'm more confident in. Not that we can't beat RGV, or not that I don't think we should beat RGV, but of the 2 matches, I'm more confident in tomorrow night. Back at the lab against the club that has really never had to travel like this. I'll take that back. They did travel to Colorado Springs, so they do have a little bit of experience with it. But going cross country, I'll have to look and see. Oh, they've been off for a week. So it's not like they played on the weekend and then have to come out on short rest. So they last played last Thursday. So they've had some time to rest. They're going to come out, play at elevation, #drink. And I think they're going to struggle. I think Hartford's going to struggle coming out here, not only with that, but also with the style of play that we like to put out there, with what Troy's system does to folks. And so looking at tomorrow night, looking at what Hartford has done recently, I could see 3-1 being a very real possibility in our favor. I hate to not give Alex a clean sheet, but Hartford can score. They've got 38 goals on the season. They've got a couple guys that are getting close to 10 goals. I think I got their co-leading scorers both have 7. And so they have the ability to do it. But I think our back 3 is better than their front 2. I also feel like we have a better midfield. And so I think it's going to come down to, can our forwards, can whoever plays in those 4 positions, can they convert? Can they take their opportunities and put them away? Because if they can do that, we're going to win this match, and it's not going to be close.
Well, so in the last month, they have been blanked twice. One of those was against New York, who is barely above Loudoun.
They are atrociously bad.
And New York blanked them 2-0. Charlotte also blanked them. Charlotte's a good team, so there's no fault there. But their only result last month was against Real Monarchs.
Mm-hmm.
So does that even count? So I'm not. This should be a win. It should be a multiple goal win. You said they came out to Colorado Springs and so they have experience coming out west and playing at elevation. Colorado Springs won 4-2.
Right. I didn't say they were good in that match.
Right. I know, but I'm just saying they came out and got worked at elevation. So I understand Colorado Springs is a better attacking side than we are in a whole. I mean, they have Haji Berry, so of course, but to give up 4 goals, never a good look, and to have to come back out and play at elevation, they know what's coming, but that knowing what's coming doesn't help your lungs when it comes to coming out here. And so, yeah, I mean, we basically already given our predictions. 4-0 is mine. It might not get that bad of a bloodbath, but I expect at least a 2-0 win.
Yeah. Again, it's just one of those matches where a point is not good enough. Yeah. A point, well, if we went on the road and picked up a point, I don't think it would be good enough. But a point at home against a Hartford club that will likely be out of playoff contention in the not too distant future is absolutely not good enough. We have to get 3 points. And I think we're going to say that for every match between now and the end of the season. And I think it's accurate, but there's going to be some matches. Like I think if we go to San Diego, pick up a point, I think that's a good result.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm trying to think of what else we have left.
We just have at San Diego, we have at RGV.
Yeah.
And then we have home for RGV, home for Hartford, home for San Antonio, and home for Real Monarchs.
I would say of those matches, a point against San Antonio is a good result. A point against, I would obviously much rather have the 3 against San Antonio, but I think 1 point is realistic. I think 1 at San Diego is realistic. I think those are both good results for us. Everything else, I think we have to get 3 points. No questions asked. Anything less than that, we're severely hurting our playoff chances at this point.
So you look at the 2 clubs that we're fighting with. We talked Thursday with David Carl, and he mentioned hosting a match at the Lab for the playoffs, which I think is a little bit of pie in the sky, but I understand where David's coming from. But if you realistically look at the 2 clubs we're fighting, just to make sure we get in the playoffs, and that's Austin and RGV. We have RGV twice on the schedule. I think if we beat them both times, we don't have to worry about RGV. But I'm looking at Austin's schedule here, and tell me what you think about it, because they have 2 matches in hand on us. They've only played 25, so they've got
1 in hand.
Have we played 26?
Yeah, we've only played 26.
Okay. Sorry, I was looking at RGV. RGV's played 27, so I was comparing it to them. Okay, so they have 1 in hand on us, and they are currently only a point back of us. Their next match is tomorrow against Tacoma.
Mm-hmm.
Tacoma has lost 5 straight. I could see them winning that. It's at home. Then they have Oklahoma City. Loss, draw, win, draw is Oklahoma City's run of form lately. So I could see that one also being a win. It's in Austin. But then you have at Birmingham, at Real Monarchs, which, okay, at El Paso, at San Antonio, and then home for Charlotte.
Yeah.
I mean, that 1, 2, 3, 4 of those last 5 are very, very tough, including that Charlotte one, even though it's in Austin.
And you said that, all right, so Austin has Charlotte, San Antonio, are El Paso, Real, Tacoma, Birmingham,
in Oklahoma City.
and Oklahoma City. Okay, and so I think I looked at their schedule yesterday or Sunday. Jerry popped in the chat and was trying to give me a hard time, saying that a loss would take us out of it and blah 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 and whatever. And Jerry was just talking out of his ass. So
That's what Jerry does best.
Yeah, and so I was trying to explain that. I was like, Jerry, losing to Lou City is not the end of the world for us. And yes, Austin does have a match in hand, but look at their schedule. Birmingham is most likely a loss. San Antonio is most likely a loss. Charlotte, they may get a point out of that. El Paso, that's most likely a loss. So that's 3 losses already.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's going to be near impossible for them to sneak in. I could see them beating Real and then potentially beating Oklahoma City. Because if I remember correctly, every team that they play except for Real Monarchs is either currently in a playoff position or they're still in contention for the playoffs.
Let's see. Tacoma's
not eliminated. It's a tough road for them, but
they're only 2 points back, but they are sitting 7th in that division.
That's a tough division, though.
Birmingham is basically Lou City.
Yeah,
I mean that's how good they are, and that'll be in Birmingham. Oklahoma City is sitting tied for Memphis for 4th in that same division. Charlotte is easily in 4th in theirs, and only 2 points behind second place in that group. I think realistically, I mean, I could see them getting 10 points out of those matches. I mean, I could see them beating Tacoma, beating Oklahoma City, beating Real Monarchs, and then drawing somebody, surprisingly. Maybe Charlotte, maybe El Paso, maybe San Antonio, whatever. So you say 10 points. Then you look at ours. Should beat Hartford, that's 3. Should beat RGV at home, that's 6. Should beat Real Monarchs at home, that's 9.
And that eliminates Austin right there. Basically.
I mean, we're a point ahead of them, and they have a match to play. So, essentially that does them in. And if we get a point out of either San Diego or RGV, then we're sitting pretty. And if we get 6 points from the RGV matches, then that puts us at 12 points for this scenario. And RGV, I don't think RGV would catch us either. So I'm still feeling pretty good. If we come out flat against Hartford, if we talk Thursday, I might have a different tune. But as for right now, I'm feeling pretty confident.
Yeah, like you said, I'm seeing maybe 10 points at best for Austin out of the remaining matches. If they outperform that, then I think it gets a little bit tighter. I think it's a little bit tougher for us to pick up that final playoff spot. But yeah, I think so. We have 18 potential points left. I see us getting 12.
We need 12.
Yeah, I see us getting 12 out of that run there. And I think if we get 12, I think we're going to be in the playoffs. No question.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Unless I haven't looked at RGV's schedule, but unless RGV has.
Oh, they've got San Antonio like 2 more times. They still got Colorado, I think. I think they still have one against El Paso too. Like the back end of RGV's schedule is all within the division. And it's brutal. I think they have 2 against Monarchs too, but
they have 2 against us, 1 against Colorado, 1 against Monarchs, and 1 against El Paso. Because they only have 5 left because they've played 1 more than us.
Yeah.
So maybe, I mean, if they beat us twice and beat Real Monarchs and they get to 9, we'd basically have to beat everybody else other than them to get in. But if we get 6 points from them, it's over for them, and it'd be pretty tough for Austin, especially what I hope for is that I hope that we have to win that last match, honestly, because one, I told you guys in the group text that my wife's going to come with me to that match. She's going to be on the field with me, and for her to experience a playoff clinching win, I think would be pretty awesome. And then two, I want them to have to play for something that match. I don't want to go into the. I mean, maybe they'll still be playing for seeding. That's a possibility, but I want that match to mean something. I don't want it to be, oh, we're already in. It doesn't matter. Maybe Weehan doesn't play. Maybe Brucey doesn't play. Maybe Moreno doesn't play. Something like that. So, but we can sit here and predict all we want. It comes down to how the team performs, and if you look at our run of form, even with the Louisville loss, and what's ahead of us, I think we're in good shape. So, in case we don't talk about the RGV match, my prediction there is 2-0. But hope maybe we can hop on Thursday at least for like 30 minutes or so and talk about those two. But other than that, I think I'm good.
All right, yeah, I am too. As terms of the Mexico United, there's really not much left to talk about this week, or really anything to talk about. Two small tidbits. So I've been doing the math. So we know Armando Moreno is already going to be gone this week for international duty. It actually kind of plays in well for United because Moreno would be facing a one-match suspension due to yellow card accumulation this week. So he would miss Wednesday night's match anyway. I went back. I've done the math. He has 8 yellow cards on the season. There's a stretch of about 10 matches in there where he didn't get a yellow card, but he didn't play in the vast majority because of prior international duty. So he played 4 matches in that span without a yellow card. So if he just played one more, he would have had one of the yellows knocked off. But so yeah, no, he would be facing a yellow card suspension accumulation for 8 yellow cards on the season on Wednesday night. So either way, we wouldn't have Moreno. And
so does that. So like to me, if I'm the USL, I'm like,
no, he just has to sit out a match.
It doesn't matter that he wasn't going to be there anyway.
As far as I can tell, there's no. I can look it up, but as far as I can tell, there is no caveat in the media guide for international duty. I'll pull it up here while we're talking. Hopefully, I have an answer for you by the end of the episode. But
yeah, I mean that's okay. Worst case scenario, we don't have him for what? San Diego?
Yeah, but we want him for San Diego.
I mean, I love Moreno, but he's not a huge loss. Like, it's not such a downgrade that I'm like, oh, we've got to have him back. It's just not for me. So,
yeah,
I don't. If he misses at San Diego and we manage to get a point, then no harm, no foul. Even if we lose that match, as long as we can take care of business in the other ones, then it's no harm, no foul. So, but it's interesting to me that they wouldn't be like, well, hold on, he wasn't going to play anyways. But at the same time, who knows? They can't necessarily assume things. That's a slippery slope. So, but you say he has the yellow card, and I think about the freaking yellow card that I can't remember what game it was, but it was he had the ball, he passed it up, we had a fast break, anything could have happened, and he freaking swung basically on a guy, threw his arm back, got a yellow card for it, stopped the play, stopped any momentum, and that's the one that sticks out to me that I'm like, what the are you thinking, Moreno? Like, just
Yeah, the one he picked up against Lou City, they called it something infringement, persistent infringement. I think he was just mouthing off too much. And so he's picked up a couple stupid yellows here over the past month and a half or so. And looking at the USL rules here, 8 total cautions, 1 game suspension, and a fine. Caution accumulation suspensions can only affect regular season games. For those players who reach a caution accumulation suspension at the end of a C-Sun, thanks USL, that suspension will not be implemented in any potential playoff games this season. Accumulations will be wiped clean at the end of the season. If a player exceeds 14 cautions, the league reserves the right to fine and suspend the player at its discretion. And so serving suspensions during the regular season, any player and or coach sent off or dismissed during a regular season will be fined, but that's sending off. So
Yeah.
there's nothing in here about international duty preventing that yellow card accumulation from being served Wednesday night when he's not even here. So I think we kind of lucked out a little bit on that one. But yeah, I heard it mentioned on the broadcast tonight, so I wanted to go back and double check because I've been keeping a spreadsheet of all the yellow cards and accumulations and things. And so, yeah, it's a little bit fortunate for us there. We've got a couple guys who are getting close. I think Guzman, I think he's sitting on 6 now because he does have a good behavior one, potentially 2 good behavior ones that have come off. The next closest would be Andrew Tenari, but I think he's at 6, but I think he has a good behavior one in there as well. So I think we're going to be okay towards the end of the season in terms of that. But that was the only other note that I had about New Mexico United. The last thing I wanted to ask you before we get out of here tonight, World Cup qualifiers, Thursday night, 4 matches within CONCACAF. U.S. is taking on Jamaica. U.S. is 1-2-0. Jamaica is 0-1-2. Honduras takes on Costa Rica. Both clubs are 0-2-1. Mexico and Canada. Mexico is 2-1-0. Canada is 1-2-0. And then El Salvador takes on Panama. El Salvador goes 0-2-1 and Panama 1-2-0. What are your predictions for these matches?
I don't pay attention to half of these teams.
Okay.
But no, I think I'd like to see El Salvador get a win, especially Moreno playing well. But they just haven't looked good. Whether it was Gold Cup or the World Cup qualifying earlier. Canada, Mexico is going to be fun, man. That's going to be an exciting one. Hopefully Canada's at full strength. And I think that one's probably going to be a draw. I don't remember the other one.
Honduras and Costa Rica, and then the U.S. and Jamaica.
I literally have no thoughts on the Honduras Costa Rica one. Nobody that I know plays for either of those teams. They don't move the needle for me at all. So I'll say Costa Rica just so I can, if I'm right, I can go back and be like, ha, told you. The U.S. Jamaica one's interesting. The U.S. is obviously without Reyna and Pulisic. So
yeah,
but I think we're a deep enough club. I mean, we didn't have either of those players when we beat Mexico in the Gold Cup. So was it the Gold Cup or what was the other competition? Nations League?
Yeah, something like that.
I don't know. One of those competitions we didn't have them, and we won. We won the whole thing. So I think we should come out with a W. I believe it's in the U.S. if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was in Austin.
so that I feel pretty good about that one. Hopefully we look good on the attack and can finish. The U.S. men's national team kind of had the same problem as United did that first World Cup qualifying go round. We looked fantastic at times. Momentary lapses cost us, and couldn't finish at times, and that cost us. So, but I think we'll get the win there, and I'm excited for this club. Hopefully, Pepe gets playing time, because I think he was really good there at those last 2 matches for us, or that last match when he came on and played. So it'll be interesting. We'll see what Berhalter does, and I think it's at 5:30. I mean, it's an early kickoff, so that'll be nice. So it'll be over by 7:30, so that if we do hop on, I won't be distracted following it. So,
yeah, I think U.S. is going to pick up the win there against Jamaica. I know the Reggae Boys have played us tough in the past, and they're obviously a talented squad. With guys coming from the USL. Honestly, I'm looking forward to the Jamaica El Salvador match in November. That's going to be a lot of fun because there's going to be a lot of USL players.
USL All-Star game.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to be a lot of fun. I think Costa Rica is more talented than Honduras. I think Costa Rica picks up 3 points there. Mexico, Canada, I think the Fighting Tatas pick up another win. I think Canada's talented, but I think Mexico's better. than El Salvador, Panama. Obviously, want to see El Salvador win just for Armando Moreno, but who knows what's going to happen in that match. And all I know is the U.S. has got to pick up their play, man. They've got to pick up their play. And if they lose out on qualifying this time around,
that thought hasn't even crossed my mind, honestly. I just don't see it happening. They're such a talented team. I mean, we had probably, I think if you ask most fans if we would have had they would say it was a disappointing 3-match stretch back in, was it September or August?
September.
Back in September. That was probably a disappointing 3-game stretch, and we're still sitting in second, tied for second in the group. So I think we'll be fine. I think we can round into form, even without Reyna and Christian there. I think we've got enough depth on the wings that, I mean, if you look at the roster and the potential rosters that the U.S. can make, the real position of weakness for us was striker, and still is, to be completely honest with you. But probably the deepest position was the wings, and so granted, losing your top 2 people at that position sucks. We have enough depth there that we're okay. And then I think the back line and the defensive midfielders are pretty much set, and we've got some depth there too. So after these 3 matches, we'll see if we don't perform well in these 3 matches and we're all of a sudden sitting 5th, 3rd, 4th, somewhere in there. I might be singing a different tune, but at the moment, I think we're okay. I think we're all right.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be watching the next 3 matches for sure with bated breath to see what happens with the U.S. Can they find their form? I think of the matches in September, the most concerning one was the El Salvador match, because that's a club that we really should have pulled out 3 points against. Canada, I'm not as upset about, the 1-1 draw. I think that's understandable. They have a lot of MLS guys up there playing for the Canadian national team. And so I think that was a pretty fair result. But these matches here and the ones in November are going to be very telling.
And you look at the El Salvador match, and I agree with you. It's a team that we should get 3 points from. But that place was freaking hostile, dude. Like, they had like a 10-foot high chain link fence around the field. Christian went to go kick a corner and was getting just pummeled with beer. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a tough place to go play in what's the word I'm looking for? Live TV here, guys. Thanks. Whatever. In places like that, it's just tough to go play. And it was the first match of that thing, of that 3-game stretch. And so I could see the team just knocking off a little bit of rust, and I would have liked to have seen them come back and get 3 points against Canada, but it is what it is. So I think we should end up, I guess we got Jamaica, Honduras, and Costa Rica. I believe these 3. That should be 9 points, or at least close to it. Maybe 7, but it should be 2 wins at least.
Yeah, no, we have Jamaica, Panama, and Costa Rica.
Okay, I was completely off. I didn't get any of them except for Jamaica right. But I tried, guys. I tried it. Either way, the point still stands. It should be 2 wins at the very least. So we'll talk about that in a couple weeks and see where we're at. And I think I'll still be good there. And honestly, there's so much soccer left to be played in World Cup qualifying still, even after these 3 matches, that if they're still a little shaky, then I won't be like panic level 1,000 yet.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always the case. I mean, it's the U.S. men's national team.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what can happen, but I just feel like we're the most talented team, top to bottom in CONCACAF right now, including Mexico. We just have to put it all together.
Yeah, we absolutely do. And if we can't get to some sort of form before we get to the November matches where we do play Mexico, that's going to be tough. Because I think it looks like, according to Yahoo, or not Yahoo, but Google search, we play them back to back in 2 matches in November. And so that's going to be tough if we don't get some sort of form going before then. Hopefully we get the guys in, get them time to gel a little bit and get some form going, and hopefully we can make some progress before those 2 matches, because honestly that's probably the 2 toughest matches between here and the end of qualifying.
And we played them again in March, and I was so bummed because my birthday is March 24th, and I believe they play on the 24th. It might be the 23rd. I'm looking it up now, but they play Mexico one of those 2 days. And I was really, really wanting to save up and try to go to that match until I realized it was in Mexico.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm probably not going to go to Mexico. So, but yeah, it is going to be tough. I don't see back-to-back in November against Mexico.
Yeah, I don't know. When I Google searched the World Cup qualifiers, it had 2 matches back-to-back against them. So, but looking at the Wikipedia page, in November, we have Mexico on November 12th, and then Jamaica on the 16th.
And then it goes to January, kind of starts back over El Salvador, Canada, Honduras, and then in March, it is on my birthday. It's the 24th. We play Mexico again, Panama, Costa Rica. So, I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of matches left, but we're a talented club, and I have faith for now.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our show this week. So why don't you go and get us out of here?
All right, guys. Yeah, it was a little different with just 2 of us, especially having guests on lately at 4 and 3 and this and there. So it was a nice little reprieve from what has been the status quo. So Seth, thanks for doing everything you do. The StreamYard, I think, has been working fantastic, at least from the video side of it. And, I'm excited. I'm excited for the end of the United season. I'm excited for fall and cooler weather to finally be here. I'm excited for World Cup qualifying and football season and everything else. So those listening, we're going to try to come back Thursday at 9:00, but no guarantees there. But we will be back here at 9:00. On YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and the podcast coming out later in the day or later in the week. And if you guys are just listeners of the podcast, which I don't blame you, I listen to a lot of podcasts that have video components on YouTube, and I don't watch the video components, mainly because if I'm used to you talking in a faster speed, because I listen to 1.5 times speed, when I listen to you on YouTube, you sound drunk as hell. So I don't do that. But if you have something that you want to talk about in the moment, come onto YouTube, get in the comments. We'll mention your name, then you can listen back and hear us talk about you on the podcast itself. But we love having you guys listening. We love that this year we've had more interaction with you guys, and we plan on just keep doing the best job that we can, and hopefully it gets better experience for you listeners and watchers. And so until possibly Thursday, but possibly next Tuesday at 9:00, somos lindos.